Good morning, gang. Happy Sunday morning. As all of those on the East Coast are probably waking up to see what the pieces are from the storms that rolled through. High winds and everything like that. A lot of you guys had those. Certainly I did. So, the latest in what's going on. You knew this was coming. I talked about this, oh God, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, something like that. What was going to be the next medical emergency in the world? And of course, now we're getting the groundwork laid for it. And you know this was going to happen because we're now, 18 months away from a presidential election. Not only in the U.S., but there's elections going on around the rest of the world, too. And, the U.S., of course, was the test case in 2020. How can we keep people away from the polls? How can we do, uh, you know, mail-in balloting or any of this sort of stuff, right? Okay. Now we can move this on to a worldwide scale. We know how much sheep the people are going to be after what we saw in 2020. So let's see if we can do it again, and this time make it scarier. Right? So yesterday, the CDC, Centers of Disease Control, came out and warned of the Marburg virus. Okay, this is a hemorrhagic fever deal. I've talked about this numerous times over the last year or so because you now have a minor outbreak in Africa, okay, primarily in Equatorial Guinea and in Tanzania. I guess you have about 20 people in Equatorial Guinea that have died from this, and I think it's 8 that have died in Tanzania. Okay? And I know you're going to go, big deal, it's 28 people. I remember the first few days of 2020 where the news was coming on and going, 3 people have died. And it was a big deal, 3 people have died. And you know what that turned into. Okay, it was masks and everything, I mean, it's surprising we're not running around in hazmat suits. Though this time, maybe that's what they're hoping for. Okay, let's scare the people even more. We had one, we had another. Now, mind you this, Marburg is an Ebola-like virus that is carried by fruit bats, right? Okay, I've heard this before too. Okay, that is spread through blood or bodily fluids. Now, that's not the only way, though. It also can be spread by somebody coming in contact with contaminated objects like clothing, bedding, needles, medical equipment. I mean, it's funny that the CDC is warning people that who travel to uh, Tanzania or Equatorial Guinea not to go near sick people. That kind of makes sense, okay? But not to go to medical facilities. That's a problem, all right? You know, don't go to, gee, I'm having a heart attack. Well, don't go to the hospital because you might catch something else, catch Marburg or whatever. Where am I supposed to go? The local gas station? Interesting. So, how does this play? Well, I want you to remember something, from a few weeks back, where all the talk was, Biden was going to sign over our sovereignty to the World Health Organization. No, okay, he wasn't going to sign over our sovereignty. But what he did do was sign over the determination of action in regards to anything to the World Health Organization. Okay, and the CDC, of course, is the United States version of the WHO. So let's say, because the WHO, World Health Organization, goes into Tanzania or Equatorial Guinea and says, oh my God, this is an epidemic or whatever, and this is very dangerous. We need to lock down people. Okay? And just because we're on the safe side of things, we think we should do this all over the world because we know that people travel into Tanzania. I've been there, okay, 40 years ago. But uh, and they may come back and they may bring it. They may be a carrier. It may be on their clothes. It may be on their suitcase, whatever it would be. So you look at something like that, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, this is more than masks. We all need to be wearing hazmat suits, or we need to be completely locked down in our homes, and there is no Amazon food delivery or the grocery stores delivering your food because they don't want any human to human contact until they can get this under control. Do you see where they could be taking this further? As in, if CV wasn't a test run in 2020. Now, I'm completely speculating here, okay? But speculation is how we get to think about things. It's like, okay, this is possible. I was watching Magic Prepper last night after the live stream. 11 o'clock at night. I was watching this video from the day. That's me getting caught up on stuff. And he brought up a great comment about China and the Mexican cartels. Something I never put together. Not saying that that's going on now, but the analysis was excellent. It's the same thing I'm looking at here. Not saying this is going on now, but could this be the step that is coming next? Now, of course, you have in Tanzania and Equatorial Guinea, you have scientists going in and I guess they are GPS tracking these bats. They're going in and catching these bats in a cave, putting little GPS monitors on them so they can track where these bats go, so they can kind of see how the spread is, right? Where it could possibly be going to. There's a problem with that. This is us getting involved because, all we're being told is they are tracking the bats. If anybody believes that they are not, drawing blood from the bats or keeping one or two just for scientific experiment, I don't know, any of Fauci's minions over there, what happens if somebody gets a hold of this and this gets into the wrong hands? Let's just put it that way. I'm not going to mention whose. And all of a sudden you weaponize something like this. Okay? Think about any of those movies that you've seen lately. We all watched The Last of Us. We watch, I'm watching right now The Rain. If you guys have ever heard that, I put a link up to it in the community board the other day. It's Danish, but it's actually a pretty good series. Some of it gets a little far-fetched. They kind of glaze over stuff, but pay attention to it. Pick out the important parts and leave the rest. What does that sound like? This is something to pay attention to. Could it turn into nothing? Sure. Just like, smallpox turned into nothing. No big deal. But it's still worth watching because as well as I do that Dr. Evil and, all his cast of clowns wasn't satisfied with the death rate, wasn't satisfied with the global sheepism that we had in 2020. Let's do it bigger. That's always the mantra of the elites. We can't be satisfied with just making, pick something, Windows 10. We've got to make it better and bigger, right? Nothing wrong with making it better and bigger, but when you make it worse and bigger, there's a problem. Pay attention to this. Like I said, it may turn into nothing, but it may turn into a situation where you are locked down in your house. Again, I'm going wherever I want, unless there's nowhere to go. Remember how compliant all the businesses were. They closed. You had plastic shields all over the place. I remember for a few months going to my local hardware store. They had completely closed off the hardware store, just had the entrance blocked off into like a 4x4 cubicle. You got on a little microphone and said, I need a box of 10 penny nails and a caulking gun, and they would come and put it in a little cubicle, spin it around, Lazy Susan type, spin it around, and you'd take it, you'd put your credit card in there, spin it around, and that's how everything business was transacted. Okay, that was the best of it. Imagine we get into a situation where the grocery stores say closed until further notice, Walmart closed until further notice. And then it's what you got is what you got, guys. So, this is why we prep. We know there's nefarious actors out there. We know that the election is coming up. We know that they are going to try to do anything and everything they can to make vote by mail or anything like that. I'm not going to say vote by text. You get that guy who just got convicted of his joke, for saying vote for Hillary by text, but the one that said vote for Trump by text, they're not even going after her. Yeah. I'm not saying worry about this. I'm not saying panic about this. Just keep it in the back of your mind. Maybe today go through your house and go, if we are locked down in our house, and I've said many times, prepare to live like you can't leave your own property, because if this really did come to the United States, that's exactly what would be happening. We'd all be quarantined. Okay. Look around your house and say, do I have everything I need? Can I survive if I can never leave my property? If the only people that I can have physical contact with are the ones in my house? Granted, I know there's going to be a whole bunch of people that say, I don't care what they say, I'm going to my neighbor's house for my Monday night poker game. It's happening no matter what. I get you. I'm right there with you. Okay. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to do anything else. We get something like this come in, in the United States, martial law, yeah, pretty much. Okay. I guarantee they're going to be blocking off streets, not allowing cars to go anywhere. Not that you're going to be able to get gas anyway. So maybe take today and do a little bit of inventory and put together that list and go, do I have my water taken care of? Do I have my food taken care of? Do I have enough mason jars to store my garden this year? Do I have my power taken care of? Do I have enough ammo? Whatever it's going to be. Because if something like this does turn into a worldwide pandemic again, all bets are off. Because this one, there ain't no cure for, and the death rate is almost guaranteed. So this isn't a 99.97% survival rate. It's pretty much the other way around. Just some information on what's going on around the world. Have a good one, guys. Pinball out.